Hi, this is Yvonne, and I'm with Dennis Morgeson here, who's from the Washington County Extension Office. And he's going to tell us a little bit. Well, if you remember before, we got together earlier and we talked about the soil. We dug up some soil.
Right.
We got enough for a sampling.
Right.
And then you sent the sampling off to UK.
Right.
Okay.
And we have a soils lab up there, and they'll test the soil. And there's two soils labs. There's one at the University in Lexington, and there's another one at Princeton at their research farm out there, which they kind of split the state because there's so many that come in. I forgot how many said they did 18,000 at UK just last year. So anyway, so we did one here and we sent it off, and it's $6 in Washington County. I think it's $6 in Marion as well, and it's free in Nelson if you live in Nelson because their soil conservation district pays for it.
Okay.
It's good to get a soil test done because if you need fertilizer, it'll tell you exactly how much you need, or if you need lime or whatever, and it can save you money in the long run quite a bit because a lot of people put stuff out that they really don't need.
Oh, okay.
So, and we talked last time that this was probably pretty good soil. So when we get it back, I don't know if they can see this or not on camera, but the phosphorus here was 30. Anything 60 and above is considered high, which is good.
Okay. So we're right in the middle.
Right in the middle,
Okay.
which we will add some,
Okay.
you know, to plant. The potassium is 245, and over 300 or 320 is good. So we're right in the middle on that too, and it's got a little chart on here that tells you that's kind of medium.
Okay.
The only problem we had, and also one other thing last time if they remember, was the calcium. Around here, calcium is usually pretty good because of our limestone-based soils. So we usually don't have that problem. Some people have problems with tomatoes and stuff with blossom end rot, and they think it's a fungus, but it's a lack of calcium. And not that there's a lack of calcium in the soil, it could just be uneven watering, the plant can't get it. So usually that's how we can rule out that there's a soil problem if they've had that, if their calcium's up. And here it's 2460, 2500 and above is high, so it's still high, so we don't have to worry about it here. So we got plenty of calcium, and depending on what you're growing, they'll test different aspects of it. But the one thing that is here that was low as far as is growing your vegetables is your pH. If people are familiar with pH, it goes from 1 until 14, and 7 is neutral. Anything below 7 is acidic. Anything above that is alkaline. So we're at 5.7 on the soil pH, which is a little low. We like to have it a little bit acidic, but that's about a point too low. We want it about 6.5, 6.7, which would be ideal for vegetables.
Okay.
So if you look at that, the computer will make a recommendation from the university, or the extension agent would. Here they recommended what to apply, and I write down there at the base on an actual fertilizer that you can buy and how much you would need to put down.
Okay.
So as far as nitrogen goes, we have to add that no matter what because it comes and goes. It's in the air, it's everywhere.
Okay.
So to add that, we have to add nitrogen. You could add that by manure or some other form of that, but we put fertilizer because it's the easiest and the simplest for most people to get. So 2 to 3 pounds of actual nitrogen. Now that doesn't mean that it's 2 or 3 pounds of fertilizer, because if you look at your fertilizer bag, it'll have 3 numbers on the bag on the front of it.
Yeah, it does.
And it's nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, and that's the percentage that's in that bag of each one.
Okay.
So we need 6 actual pounds of so if we're going to use triple 19, which is about 20% nitrogen, we would have to have 6 pounds per 1,000 square feet of triple 19 to amount for that nitrogen. And the reason we're using triple 19 is because we also need phosphorus and potassium, and that fertilizer also has phosphorus and potassium. So we've got 1 to 2 pounds of phosphate and 1 to 2 pounds of potash. Well, if we put the 6 pounds to cover the nitrogen, we're also more than compensating for our phosphorus and potassium, so we've got that covered. So simple. You can buy a 50-pound bag for about 15 bucks. So you only need, if you only had a 100 square foot garden, you'd only need you know, a tenth of that. So I mean, you know, it's not very much. So you may not need to buy a 50-pound bag. The great thing about that is, if you just, after you use some of it, you just keep it in a dry place. You can put a tie around it or whatever. It'll keep. You can put it in a bucket with a top on it. It'll keep for years that way. As long as it doesn't get wet, it's good.
Okay.
So that's not, you know, that's an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
The other thing is you needed lime, and lime is what is going to make our pH go up to get closer to that neutral mark or slightly acidic. So the computer here has got it written on here, 80 pounds of bagged lime per 1,000 square feet. And for home gardeners, we usually say bagged lime because it's easy for them to get. Now lime, like the ag lime that they put in the back of trucks and scatter on fields, all of those have different powers and neutralizing. So we're just going to guess at usually with the bagged lime, and it'll get us close enough because again, this is not an exact science. We're just wanting to get in the ballpark on this. So you would need 80 pounds of bagged lime, and I think they usually sell it in the 40-pound bags, so you need a couple bags scattered on that area. But now, you know, if you got a small garden, then you're going to have to divide that by however much, you know. So again, but if it's a 100 square foot garden, you would only need 8 pounds. So again, you could save that bag and use it on other parts of the yard or garden that you've done a soil test on. You'll know how much you need. Now the good thing about this, if your pH was 5.7 and you're wanting to grow blueberries, you're still, I mean, you might add just a little bit of sulfur, lower just a little bit, but you're pretty close for blueberries with that pH, which is great. However, your calcium is high, so it's your pH is wanting to come back up even with that. So then you still have to add stuff and keep it tested. So it's easier for us to grow stuff that we're meant to grow. I don't say we're not meant to grow blueberries, but Central Kentucky, our soils are not the soils that blueberries like. We don't have acidic soils generally, and we don't have a lot of organic matter. You know, the peat and all that kind of stuff. So we need to, you know, it's easier to stick to what we can grow well, or just amend a certain area on a small scale. Now, not to say there's not areas in the county and in Central Kentucky that you couldn't grow blueberries. I know there's a grower in Mackville that his natural pH is around 5, so he's got perfect soil for blueberries. So you know, it just depends on where you're at. But for the most part, around here we have a limestone-based soil with high calcium, and that's not ideal for them. But it's great for tomatoes and all of our vegetable crops and all stuff that we want to eat. And obviously, we knew it was good for tobacco. Obviously.
Now, for this, for the amount of space that we're going to use, we'll just calculate down to determine, you know, what we're going to need or how much of what we're going to need.
Just measure off how much space you've got, and then you can kind of do the math based on that.
Now, once we get the soil up to where it needs to be, what can we grow?
All right, here, this was made out for a vegetable garden, so the recommendations were grown. I mean, was made for a vegetable garden. And that's usually when you bring in your soil test, they'll ask you what was grown there before and what are you going to. That way we can give you different recommendations based on different crops. All the vegetable crops end up with about the same requirements, so they're easy to grow in a bed together because they all have the same requirements.
So I don't have to have a certain type of soil for tomatoes and then a certain for cucumbers?
No, they're all pretty well with the soil we got. And for the most part, most of our crops are, if they fall into, like even a lot of the fruit crops and nut crops and those things would fall into this kind of same soil test range. It's only the things that are different, like acidic soils, that usually cause us trouble that we have to really watch around here. Where, you know, a lot of states, they're probably, you know, they would be great for blueberries, but they're having to do all these amendments to grow vegetables. It just depends on what you're growing. So, but what we would do is just put this down when you plant. You know, work it in before you plant, and then plant, and you're in good shape. You're good to go. And the only other thing you might want to do later on a lot of different crops, depending on whenever they're growing, is you side dress with a little nitrogen. As usually whenever the tomatoes are getting about as big as a golf ball on there, if they're, you know, the full size tomatoes, cherries obviously not, but that's whenever you would side dress with a little extra nitrogen just to give that plant another little boost to go ahead and grow those fruit out and to grow some more foliage and some more flowers. You don't want to put too much.
Would I use the same mixture that I have?
You could also use the same triple 19. Again, we won't need the phosphorus and potassium, but it doesn't hurt anything. That can be off the chart, and it doesn't hurt the plant because the plant just won't take it up. And usually the phosphorus and potassium stays in the soil a long time. So if you did the triple 19 for a few years, you'd probably get to where you would never need to add that again for years, and then you could just go to like a urea, which is just a nitrogen-based fertilizer, and that's all you would need. So it's not that, it sounds complicated, but it's really not whenever you really think about based on you know, the crops you're growing. And we usually will put on there vegetables. A lot of times it's like at planting or whatever. You don't have to wait for your soil to move. Go back to blueberries, that's the one you would want to, though. You would want to test your soil in the fall, get your sulfur and stuff down there to lower that pH, and then plant in the spring on it. Whereas with the lime, it takes a few weeks for it to kick in, but we're not so low that our plants are going to hurt. They're, you know, they're just going to be getting better as the lime starts
I'm going to turn my garden. I got my good soil there, and then I'm going to put down my fertilizer.
Right.
my triple 19s down
Right.
there. Now, do I have to wait any length of time?
No, you just work that in and you can plant right behind it.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Now, if you wanted to, the limes, you could put that down a month or two ahead of time to bring your pH up, but you're not so low that your plants are going to suffer in the meantime. It's just something you'd want to get that back up because at some point it could start to cause you problems.
Okay. All right then. Now, I know this is the planting season, but is it too late for our viewers to get in contact with you to get their soil done?
No, it's good. It'll take a couple weeks. We'll go ahead and tell you that. But at this point, what I would do would go ahead and pull my soil test, and then I would go ahead and plant, and that way we can come back and amend it with the fertilizer if you need it. You're going to need nitrogen no matter what. So by the time you get that back, that you can put that down and then it would kick in. So usually by the first rain, it's kicked in, and the plants are going to start to take it up. But ideally, we'd want to done the soil test, ahead of time.
Sure.
But if you can't, you can't. At this point, it's still not too late. It's the right time to plant all of our warm season. Well, it is most of our warm season vegetables.
What are the most popular warm season vegetables?
Oh, tomatoes by far.
Tomatoes. Everybody loves
tomatoes. By far, everybody loves it. Everybody loves sweet corn too, but a lot of people have trouble with varmints getting in that. So some people say I'm not going to grow that anymore. So tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, zucchini. Everybody that has a garden has at least a few plants of that. Peppers. Those are pretty common. And in the cool season garden, which was planted back in March, that stuff's coming in right now, or starting to. The broccoli plants will be heading up pretty soon. Cabbage, cauliflower, all that. The potatoes are blooming, or mine are. A lot of people that got them out in March is blooming, so that means they're making potatoes under there. So,
and when our vegetables are in season, that's when we get the best prices, right?
Well, I shouldn't say you get the best prices. You're getting the best quality.
Best quality.
Best quality,
okay.
Which is what we all want, right?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. The price wise, we have stuff year round here that gets shipped in.
Yeah.
And it's shipped in. It may be cheaper because they grow so much of it, but it's never going to be as fresh and as tasty as what you can buy at a farmer's market or from a gardener or somebody. Because you go from being on the truck for a week in refrigeration, or it was in the garden this morning, you're eating it that evening. So it's so much better.
Yes, it is.
Local.
Yeah, and healthier for you too.
Definitely.
Because that's one of the reasons people have gardens. They want to eat healthy.
Absolutely. You eat healthy. It's good exercise. So you get double benefits there. And if you can and freeze and stuff like I do, you could save some money in the long run on
Now, are you a freezer and a canner?
Yes, I'm a freezer and a canner, and do all that stuff. So it's nice in the wintertime to go in and get that out of the cabinet, that you put up yourself.
You're a heck of a catch.
I tell you. Unless our freezer goes out, which happened. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
That's another story.
Another story.
Well, listen, Dennis, thank you for coming out and bringing our soil report and explaining that to us and our viewers. If our viewers have any questions about soil reports or the results of them, how can they contact you?
They can call me at the Washington County Extension Office at 859-336-7741. You can also, Facebook me or Facebook our Facebook page at Washington County Extension. Email, whatever, easy to get in contact with.
All right, then. Well, thank you so much.
Catch me at Kroger.
Hopefully, we'll see you soon. Get Gary out here to turn this soil.
Yes, I thought he was going to have it turned by the time I got back.
I thought so too, but Gary.
He'll say it's too hot now.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, watch the continuing episode.
Right, right. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned for our garden. This has been Yvonne McNary. Thank you so much for watching.